What's up, everybody? Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another video on the channel. So, we covered the chapters of the characters' experience, what happened when the rapture occurred. We saw Judd's perspective in Chapter 6, Vicky's perspective in Chapter 7, and Lionel's perspective in Chapter 8. Now we're going to see Ryan's perspective in Chapter 9 and see what he thinks about all this. See what happens to him, and see how he reacts to all this. So let's hop into it. Let's jump into it, shall we? Okay, then. Page 121. Okay. Chapter 9. Ryan left alone. Ryan daily awoke early that fateful morning. He had a fading recollection of noise in the middle of the night. Not been enough to wake him fully, but he remembered thinking his dad had come home. But then he remembered his dad was not expected until morning. His mother was to pick up his dad, but Ryan headed towards the Steeles to walk to school with Raimi. Ryan didn't hear his mother and assumed he had risen before her. He took a shower and dressed and then finished his homework before heading down to breakfast. Surely she would be up by now, but she wasn't there. A note awaited Ryan. It read, "Honey, please stay here until I call you. I'm going to try to get to O'Hare. I'm not sure I'll get through because of everything that's been happening, so please don't worry. If the stuff on television bothers you, just turn it off. Dad and I will be home as soon as I can find him. I couldn't get an answer to the Steeles, so don't go there unless you talk to Mrs. Steele or Raimi first. And don't walk to school alone. There may not even be school today. They should say on the news. I'll call you sometime in this morning. Don't go anywhere until you hear from me, please. Love, Mom." Ryan had no idea what she was talking about, but that didn't keep him from worrying. He got himself some cereal and turned on the little TV his mom kept on the kitchen counter. None of the stations would come in, so he turned it off. When he finished eating, he said he would call Raimi. The phones weren't working, but he noticed the message light blinking on the answering machine. He pressed the button. His mother had called at 4:30 in the morning, so that was what he had heard. She had left in the middle of the night, and this call came long after she had written the note and left. Ryan, his mother's recorded voice said, "I'm stuck in some unbelievable traffic here. I don't know if I can get to O'Hare or not, back home. I'll just keep trying. When you get this message, call me on my car phone. You know the number. I can't get through to O'Hare by phone either, and the first time I tried to call you, all the circuits were busy. So if it doesn't work, keep trying. And remember, don't worry. I'll find Dad. We'll get home as soon as we can." His mother had sounded worried herself. How could he not worry? Ryan still couldn't bear bringing any TV station, so he turned on the radio and hooked up his video games. He was immersed in his favorite game when he realized what was happening. It was like a scary science fiction movie, the kind he had not been allowed to watch till he turned 12, which still scared him if he was honest with himself. Something had happened. Millions of people all over the world disappeared at the same time. They left everything behind but their flesh and bone. Driverless cars, trucks, and buses had crashed. Ships ran aground. Planes crashed. Whoever someone was in charge of something important and they disappeared, something terrible went wrong. Ryan yanked his video game controller out of the TV and began searching for any good channel. Finally, every channel was suddenly crystal clear, and newsmen even talked about that. They said that service providers were finding that power, water, and communications were sometimes good, sometimes bad. If you must make a phone call, be sure it's an emergency and you gotta get off quickly to keep lines open as much as possible. Now Ryan was scared. What if his dad had been on a plane and the pilot disappeared? This had happened just before 11 when he first heard the sirens. The news reports told of fires throughout the suburbs in the city of Chicago. In fact, there were fires all over the world where people had put something on the stove and then disappeared but never came back to turn it off. Brian imagined his mother trying to drive through impossibly blocked neighborhoods. He saw a helicopter view of the expressways, which were like huge parking lots. The only luck some people had when they were able to get off the highways and try the side streets. Ryan knew his mother had expected to be home by now and not leave him there alone to see this. He was fascinated by the reports from all around the world, and he sat wide-eyed, his mouth hanging open, as video shots showed people disappearing and their clothes floating to the ground. A tape broadcast from Hawaii showed a birthday party where the birthday girl, her two brothers, and her parents vanished as a neighbor videotaped her blowing out of her candles. She was close to the cake and took a breath, and then she disappeared, and her party had fell into the candles and erupted into flames. The woman doing the videotaping saw only the flames and quickly doused out the fire. They realized that she and another couple were the only people still there. Ryan heard her gasping and trying to talk as she taped the seams of little piles of clothes all around the room. When the station replayed the tape in slow motion, Ryan saw what the video camera woman had not seen. Just where the little girl's hat fell into the candles, the girl had disappeared and her dress would drop out of the picture. View from helicopter from the west coast showed cops pulling over a motorist. As one patrolman approached the driver's side and the other backed him up at the rear of the car, the driver and one of his two passengers disappeared, and so did the backup cop. The patrolman assumed the driver and one of his passengers had ducked down the seat, so he pulled his weapon and warned his partner, who was no longer there. The cop put both hands on his revolver and skipped to the back of the car to check on his back and discovered his cap, shirt, badge, trousers, belt, gun, cuffs, ammunition, and shoes right where he had been standing. The patrolman panicked, screaming at the occupants of the car to come out with their hands up while he scampered behind his own patrol car for cover. As he crouched there, one woman in the back seat of the car came out in hysterics, screaming at the driver, and the other passenger disappeared. The cop made her lie down, face down to the pavement, and he cuffed her before he started searching the car. He pulled empty clothes from the seats, then released her from the cuffs and comforted her as they tried to make sense of it. By the time the cameraman and the chopper realized what had happened, several accidents occurred on the same stretch of highway. He pulled back and panned wide to see tractor-trailer trucks hung up on guardrails, cars having plunged down ravines, and even the clothes of a utility worker hanging from a ladder that led to the top of a right pole. Ryan wished his mother was home, but he didn't think he could speak even if someone was there to listen. This couldn't be real. He changed channels and found the same thing on every one. People were urged to stay in their homes as long as they were safe and to stay in tune for more information. Ryan tried Ramey's phone again and reached only the answering machine. He did not leave a message. Later, if he dared, he would walk down to the steel home and see what was going on. He wondered if anyone he knew had disappeared. Ryan tried his mother's car phone. It rang and rang, but no one answered. He didn't get that usual recording about the cell phone customer having been driven outside the service area, already being on the phone, so he knew he was getting through. It wasn't like his mother tried to leave the phone in the car if she wasn't there, and she always left it on when she had it with her. Ryan couldn't figure out, and now he was really worried. He found a station that listed all the crashes of planes that had been due into O'Hare that morning. His father had been coming in from Asia, which was all he knew. One of the crashed planes was coming from there, but Ryan didn't know the time or the number or even the airline. He just hoped against his hope his father had not been on that plane. News helicopters showed scenes from above O'Hare where big jets were parked up and down the runways. People walked from the planes as far as 2 miles to the terminal. And once there, it was nearly impossible for them to get out of the airport. Traffic gridlocked off the road led into and out of the airport. Ryan watched as thousands of stranded passengers walked through the zigzag cars and down the overpasses and exits until they found the taxis and limousines that would carry them toward their homes, if they could make it out through the tangled mess. Somewhere out there, Ryan's mother was either trying to get to O'Hare or learn some news about her husband's flight, or she had already picked him up and was trying to make her way home. From what Ryan could see on the news, he didn't expect her to call for her a long time. He dialed and redialed her cell phone number, but she never answered. He hoped with all his might it was just part of the communications breakdown caused by so many people disappearing. Ryan grew panicky, unable to reach anyone by phone, not having any idea whether his parents were safe. He hated to think what his mother might try to call him. He hated to think his mother might try to call him while he was gone, but he had to get out of there. He had to get to Ramey's house and see what was going on. Ryan tried his mother again, then Ramey's line. Still just the machine, he hung up and ran from the house down the block and to the edge of Ramey's property. People were outside their homes talking with neighbors. Many were crying. They watched as he approached the front porch of the steel home. He didn't want his spirits to be up to anything, so he just sat on the front step as if waiting for his friend, until people seemed to forget about him. Ryan was going to ring the bell when he realized his drapes were open. The door was unlocked and stood open about an inch. There was no car in the driveway, but someone must have been home. He slipped inside to the bitter smell of burnt coffee. He tiptoed into the kitchen and saw the coffee pot and the sink still hot. Ryan knew someone was home, but who? He opened the door that led to his garage. Only Mr. Steele's BMW was missing. Mrs. Steele's car was there, and so was the one Ramey's sister drove when she was home. Ramey's four-wheeler was there, of course, and the snowmobile on his bike. So who was here and who wasn't? He checked the hall closet where Ramey's father's trench coat, flight bag, and cap were stored. Captain Steele was supposed to get on some long trip to England or somewhere. Ryan tiptoed upstairs to the bedrooms, past a bunch of family photos on the walls. Ramey's door was shut. Ryan knocked lightly, no answer. He pushed the door open. Ramey's nightclothes are in a neat pile on the bed, and Ryan looked enviously at the picture of the bedside table of Mr. Steele, the uniform near his plane. As Ryan left Ramey's room, he held his breath. He heard something coming from the master bedroom suite. What was it? Someone was home. From the hall, Ryan could see all the way into the suite. There, lying face down on the bed, his uniform in a pile on the floor beside him, was Ramey's dad. He appears to be sleeping, so the soldiers heaved as if he were crying. Ryan didn't dare disturb him. He slipped back to the hall, down the stairs, and headed for home. Ryan had a sinking feeling as he entered his quiet house, turned on the TV, and saw a list of people who had been on board the flights that crashed on their way to O'Hare. "We repeat," the announcer said. It has never been our policy to release names of missing or presumed dead passengers, or next of kin be notified. However, with such massive tragedies and the impossibility of local law enforcement agencies being able to keep up with the grisly business of informing families, we've been asked to make these names public as tastefully as possible. Remember, if someone you know appears in these lists, it means only that they're held the reservations of these flights and that their whereabouts are currently unknown. Ryan covered his eyes covered his eyes and peeked through his fingers as the names slowly scrolled by. He recognized one as the father of a friend of his, another one or two looked familiar, and all he could do was wonder how many friends had lost family members. Then he saw his dad's name. He burst into tears. He turned off the TV and shook his head. It couldn't be. He tried to make himself believe his dad had somehow survived and would be calling him. But that wasn't going to happen, and he knew it. It would be just he and his mom now. Did she know already? There was no message like blinking on the answering machine. Maybe she wanted to tell him in person. Maybe she didn't even know yet. He dialed her cell phone for what seemed 100 times. It rang and rang, and finally someone answered. It was a gruff male voice. Hello? Who's this? This is Ryan Daly, and thought it was dialing my mother's cell phone. You are, son. Your mother's full name is Majari Louise Daly. Yes. Where are you? Who is this? I'm sorry, son. This is Sergeant Flanagan, Des Plaines Police. What happened? Is my mom all right? I'm afraid she's not, Ryan. There was a gas main leak we didn't know about, and it blew us over cars during the intersection here. Your mother's been taken to Lutheran General in Park Ridge. You know where that is? No, sir. Well, it's just a minute, son. Yeah. Okay. Listen, Ryan, you have friends or relatives there that can look after you for a while? Ryan wanted to blur these. There's just seen his dad's name on a list of air crash victims, but he didn't. Why? So I hate like everything to tell you this over the phone, but your mother didn't make it. The county morgues are full, so one is being set up at Maine East High School in Park Ridge, not far from the hospital. You'll want to get someone to get over here in a day or two for identification, but don't try to come right away. Ryan couldn't speak. Sergeant Flanagan apologized again. I'm sorry, son. You sure got someone there to take care of you? But Ryan hung up. Was it possible that the people who believed in Jesus had been taken to heaven just like Raimi and tried to tell him? He and his parents and Captain Steele had been left behind, but both of his parents were dead. What was he going to do? Ryan had no idea, but he was going to try one thing. Raimi Church was less than a mile away. Ryan wasn't in a hurry. He just wanted to walk and think and cry. If anyone was at that church, Ryan might be able to find some help. So yeah, that's chapter 9 of the first book of Let's Find the Kids series, The Vanishings. And we'll go to chapter 10, the final chapter of the first book, in the next video. Take care, everybody. Another video from my Storytime channel.